It is time to reclaim sleep, everyone. Society and culture tells us that like the grind, the hustle, the sleep deprivation is like this badge of honor. Like, how many times have you either boasted or had someone boast to you about how little sleep you had last night, and yet you're still going and you're still powering through? I think and I believe passionately that sleep is something that we need to prioritize in our life. Whether we are interested in our health, our life expectancy, our safety, productivity, energy, food choices, the education of our children, and our mood, then sleep needs to be getting up there in terms of our health priorities. It is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And that's what I believe we need to fight for in terms of our sleep. We need to tell our friends, our colleagues, our families, our employers that sleep is not something that we are willing to compromise. And why? Because its effects are so wide-reaching. You need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And you might be sat there thinking like, oh, I get by fine on just 5 hours. Or the caffeine, the alcohol, the screens, they just don't affect me. I sleep fine no matter what I do. Well, here's my message to you, ladies and gentlemen. You are not a freak of nature, that the laws of science do not apply to you. So you can take responsibility for your sleep and you can make it better. And when you do that, the impact that it is going to have on your life will be incredible. And if I can make just one of you sleep better, then that is worthwhile. As you know from my last video when I talked about stress, insomnia is something that I occasionally battle with when that stress just gets to the point of like overwhelm. I'm really close to breaking point and I have a night where I just don't sleep. So I've had to get pretty disciplined with my sleep routine and start to look at what some of the research is showing us about how to sleep better. Now, if you didn't know, sleep is actually controlled by 2 different chemicals in our brain. It is controlled by something called adenosine. Now this builds up, it's like a ticking clock telling us how long it has been since we last slept. And it builds up this sleep pressure, this need to go to sleep. And then you have something called melatonin, which you may or may not have heard of. It's the one that people tend to have heard of most. And what melatonin does, it's like this chemical messenger that says it's dark now, it's time to go to sleep. But it doesn't actually instigate sleep itself. So these 2 chemicals I'm going to mention as I go through these sleep strategies that I have for you today. Okay, so as ever, get out your journal, get some post-it notes, and you're going to start to write down these big ideas about how we're going to sleep better and prioritize it more in our lives. Okay, so the first one, and this is the most important one as well, so if you do any of these different strategies, it is this one. So what I want you to do is set a sleep schedule and stick to it. So what that means is get up at the same time every day and go to bed at the same time every day. And I bet that doesn't sound fun, does it? So there's probably some resistance there. It might feel quite childish. I think sometimes one of the ways that we exert our authority and a little bit of freedom, we tend to want to like stay up a little bit later or get up whenever we want to. But actually, that's not doing our bodies any favours at all. Your body likes to have this set pattern and know when it's going to wake up and go to sleep. So setting a sleep schedule is so important. One way I like to do it is to set an alarm on my phone, and then about half an hour before I actually want to be in bed, it reminds me, it flashes up to say, right, now it's time to start getting ready for bed. So those reminders can be a really helpful way to get into this. If you are currently not sleeping very much, then don't try and like give yourself 12 hours in bed, because realistically your brain isn't used to that. So you need to let yourself adapt. Work your bedtime back by like 5-10 minutes every week until it's getting to the point where it is a longer duration. As part of that, then give yourself also an unconditional 8-hour sleep window. And that, as I said, should not be compromised, not by family, not by work, not by anything else that you think you need to get done. An unconditional 8-hour sleep window with that like go to bed time and get up time. And as I said, that is the most important one. So do not just cast it aside. Yes, it might be a little bit uncomfortable, but you can do it. If you take responsibility and you love sleep, then that's where I'd start. Okay, number 2, I love this idea. And before I tell you what it is, make sure you head down to the description section, and there you'll find a link to subscribe. And if you drop your name and email there, then I could be landing in your inbox within the next couple of minutes. I have a free getting started plan about how to create healthy and sustainable change in your life, to get fitter, to lose weight without diets, and I'd love to send you that your way. So go pop your email address down below and you'll be hearing from me in your inbox very, very soon. Okay, so this is big idea number 2, and as I said, I love this one. It's called the 3-2-1 sleep strategy. So what that stands for is no food 3 hours before bed, no work 2 hours before bed, and no screens 1 hour before bed. So research has shown that a heavy meal can actually start to impact the sleep process and make it harder to go to sleep. And then your body also, and your mind, needs relaxation and unwind time. So like finishing your work half an hour before bed is not giving your system the chance to shake off that stress from the day. And then the screens thing is to do with blue light. So blue light really affects the ability of our brain to prepare for sleep. So no screens, TV, computers, phones. And yes, they come with kind of like filters, don't they, to block out that, but it's not the same as not looking at a screen. You could also invest in some blue light blocking glasses. And you might have seen mine on my social media stories. They look so cool. But again, that's another thing, an easy hack that you could use to reduce the amount of blue light. So that is 3-2-1. No food 3 hours before bed, no work 2 hours before bed, and no screens 1 hour before bed. Again, it's probably a bit ambitious to go right off the block with all 3 of those things. So you might choose to like do just one and then build up the other components as you get a little bit more used to it. Okay, number 3 is exercise. Funny how this one keeps cropping up, isn't it? So exercise has been shown to improve both the quality of your sleep and the duration of your sleep. But that is a caveat with this one. So try not to exercise within at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. For me personally, it's about 4 hours. And that's because the increased endorphins, it actually takes you, it's like a natural high. It takes time for your body to calm itself down and process those hormones, but also to drop your body temperature down enough in order to go to sleep. So body temperature drop is one of the key things that your body needs to actually fall asleep. And if you exercise too close to bed, then you're a bit warm and to go to sleep. Then big idea number 4 is to do with caffeine and alcohol. And I know you don't want to hear this, but it is so important that you understand the effects this is having on you. And even if you say that like, yeah, I'm fine with caffeine, I can have however much and I'll always sleep well, what we're failing to do is link like last night's poor sleep with the caffeine intake of the day before. And caffeine is really problematic for a couple of reasons. So the first reason is it actually blocks adenosine in the brain. So what that means is, remember, adenosine is the thing that gives us this idea of sleep pressure, so wanting to go to sleep and feeling sleepy. So caffeine blocks that. The adenosine is still building up even though the caffeine is acting, and it means when the caffeine finally breaks down, you get this great big crash, because that you're suddenly aware your body's flooded with this adenosine that's just been building up and building up. And then the second thing that caffeine does is it actually starts to block the quality of your sleep, so it prevents you entering a deeper sleep. It has a very long half-life. So what that means is it's how long the body takes to break it down. So it's about 12 to 14 hours depending on the individual. And just think about this for me for a second. So if you were to be in bed, like 10, 11 o'clock at night, whatever it is, 9 if you're me, if you were to take half a shot of coffee, would you expect to sleep very well? And yet a lot of us are going to bed with far more caffeine in our systems than that. We use it as a bit of a crutch, don't we, for our tiredness. So if you are serious about sleep, it's time to get serious about your caffeine intake. I have a pretty non-negotiable 10 a.m. cutoff for caffeine. And yes, that can be a bit ridiculous on some days because I'm like, get the coffee in me at 9:59. But I'm caffeine sensitive. I prioritize sleep. Like, I cannot afford to have that sleep compromised. And if you were thinking that sounds insane, I could not do that, work backwards. If your last coffee is like 2 p.m, then make it 1:30 p.m. like the next day or the next week. And then work it back so it's a time. You'll just get used to it. You don't have to stop drinking caffeine. You just have to be more aware of the timing. Alcohol. Alcohol is another big issue when it comes to sleep. So alcohol, get this, it's one of the most powerful suppressants of REM sleep known to man. So REM sleep is like the dreaming part of sleep. It's when you start to process your memories and your emotions and what's happened during the day. So that has a massive effect because your brain can actually never make up for that lost REM sleep. And also, interesting side note, that's why you're not supposed to drink when you are pregnant, because the fetus has up to 70% REM sleep at certain points of its development. And the alcohol affects, it blocks the REM sleep of the fetus, hence its development. So alcohol, again, I'm not saying don't drink it. What I'm saying is be aware of the effects, be aware of the timing, be aware of how much, and be aware of how often. Okay. The next one we're going to talk about is, this is big idea number 5, I believe. Get yourself a dark, cool, gadget-free environment to sleep in. If your bedroom is a chaotic mess, then trust me, that is not sending signals to your body to truly relax. So you want to get it as dark as possible. So invest in some blackout curtains or blinds. Block any little light, you know, like the standby lights that are on plugs and things, get rid of those. And then also make it cool. So make it to the point where actually you'd be a little bit uncomfortable to be in there during the day. It needs to be that cool in order to support and go off to sleep. The cool thing as well, if you have a hot bath before bed, then that can actually start to decrease your body temperature as well. So that's another really handy tip and trick to help support your sleep. So get it calm, get it relaxing. Your bedroom should only be for sleep and sex. Not work, not being on the TV, not being on your phone, nothing else, for sleep and sex. Because then your body associates that room, that space with sleep. And this leads finally into my last point. And before I tell you what that is, again, head down to the description section, click on there and subscribe because I'd love to send you my free stuff. Also, let me know in the comments what you're loving about this. Like sleep, we need to talk about it more. And I want to know what you struggle with and what helps you. On that note, big idea number 5. So this is don't lie in bed awake. Now, I actually think that maybe if you are meditating or doing a breathing technique, then that's maybe okay because you might drop off whilst you're doing those things. But if you've woken up or you are going to bed and you're struggling to sleep, if that is getting to 20 minutes or more, or if you're feeling stressed and anxious and that's starting to build about you not falling asleep, then get up. Get up out of bed. It links into the previous point. Remember, your body wants to associate your bedroom with sleep, not with lying awake. And they did some really cool studies where they did this with insomniacs, and the insomniac was told that they should not go into the bedroom and they should not get into bed unless they actually feel sleepy. And that alone, without any other method, actually improved their sleep by, I can't remember the percentage, but by a significant amount. Not making it perfect, but it helped a lot. So when you get up, don't go watch the TV again, that's the screen thing. And try do a relaxing activity that might be like reading or listening to something, so that you start to then feel sleepy and then go back to bed. Okay, I hope those have helped because, as I said, this year should be, let's reclaim it as the year of best sleep of our lives. We need it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go against what culture is telling us and reclaim sleep for ourselves. We love sleep. Repeat after me. We love sleep. We love sleep. Go check out my next video and let's keep learning together.